Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and fight fans around the world. It's your boy P. Welsh here for another UFC picks, previews, and predictions. This week we have Lemos versus Jandiroba coming from the Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. 7-3 last week. Couple nice upsets picked. Bad read on Freemed. He was bum juice. Looking forward to this fight card. A lot of really close fights this week. A lot of prove yourself moments in the octagon that's going to occur here. We're going to start the evening off in the heavyweight division. We have Muhammad Kamaru Usman's brother Usman versus Tomas Peterson. 11-3 versus 8-2. Both fighters coming off a loss. 1 inch on the height for Usman and 5 reaches on the reach advantage. And Peterson coming off a loss in his debut to Pogues. In this same octagon. Let's see if he has something more to show this time. I remember, I don't know if it was on the first card. I definitely picked Pogues. No, excuse me. I picked Peterson. Peterson might have been my first ever pick on the official pick page, and it was wrong, right? I don't know if we started, but he was definitely one there. They let off the card. He got dominated by Pogues. I remember I picked Pogues. No, excuse me. I picked Peterson. And when I saw his walkout, his interview, he had no game plan. He was just going to get pieced up. Coaches were in his ear, dicing him up. 1-2. It was just an advanced sparring session. He couldn't take him down. He couldn't strike with him. And I'm not saying Usman's as clean as a striker as somebody like Pogues was, but I think he'll be able to do damage there and also work in the takedown game. I worry about Usman working himself into a bad position, jumping a gilly, something that gets him in where Peterson's up on top and he doesn't have the gas tank to rebound. I think that's definitely a win condition for Peterson is he takes advantage of a mistake from Usman in the octagon because you have seen he hasn't been a flawless fighter as much as his bloodline dictates his talent and his work ethic as well in there. I like Usman to get the job done. I think this fight goes to the decision. I think these guys kind of bore us a little bit. Maybe Usman catches this guy with some exchanges as he's trying to jump in, maybe like a nice uppercut, potentially a knee. He's got big metrics on the length and with the legs and the arms. I like Usman here, especially to start off the fight. I think he's got experience, and I'm just not going to pick Peterson anyways till Sunday until he proves it in that UFC octagon, right? Not the Contender Series, not some other promotion, right? Like against a UFC caliber fighter. And I'm not saying Usman is a title contender, but he's definitely a professional cage fighter, and it's in his family. I got Usman here all day to start off the night, maybe by decision. The heavyweights have like, oh, we have no gas tank recently, and they've been showing us they can fight for 15 minutes. It's like, yo, guys, put it on the line there. But Usman here to start off the card in the heavyweight division. Boom, moving along here. Got the women's flyweight, Luana Carolina, 10-4, coming off a win versus Lucy Pudalova, 14-9, coming off a loss. A little bit of a height advantage, but a little bit of a reach advantage. Probably try and see a lot of. You're gonna see a lot of standing in this fight, a lot of exchanges. I'm gonna back Carolina here just because I think she has that dog in the fight. I think she really has that comeback, and I remember she was losing her last fight to Staralenko, and she came back and finished her in the last 10 seconds of the fight. I think she has that comeback ability, and one thing that scares me about picking Pudalova, right, as close as the odds are, is it scares me is the amount of defeats that she's taken in the UFC, right, to quality opponents. Now, I think Carolina has that scrap in her. I think she's got the ability to even finish somebody like Pudalova, as we've seen with comeback wins. She has been finished herself, which I don't really think. This fight probably goes the distance as well. Definitely over 2.5 will be spicy there. But I think we see back and forth. I think we see Carolina. This might come down to the third round. She might have it wrapped up in the first 2 rounds, and Pudalova come on strong in the third round. I think we're going to the judges' scorecard here. But if there is a win condition, I do think it is with Carolina. That KO getting into a powerful position off of a combination. Even like you said, at the depth, she can come back and win. And lose at that matter too. So we're moving into this one. I'm not gonna spend too much time on it because it's really one of those that is kind of hard to predict. You're gonna see some grappling, some I kind of think Pudilova could get caught on her, you know, on her back and not have a big get up. Right? I think she's proponed or has a propensity to get dominated by somebody like Carolina who thrives in favorable positions, right? That's her win condition, is to get in the favorable position and then win. And Pudilova is trying to, she'll try and navigate that distance, but we should see a nice little scrap here. I do think it goes to the judges' scorecard, but I am picking Carolina because I do think she can end it before that, and that's where I think she might actually steal the show. But if not, I do see unanimous 29-28 maybe win the third round. Turn on the fire in that final frame and get the job done. The flyweight division, bang, Carolina. Little recency bias there too, but I'm a believer. Next up, we're in the men's lightweight division. We got Luke Razdabov versus Trey Ogden, 18-5-1, coming off a win. The Tajikistan tank, I believe, versus Trey Ogden, 5'11" metrics, a little bit of a reach advantage for Ogden. And man, this one should be another good scrap here. I like Razdabov versus Ogden. I think Ogden looked very good in his last fight. I think he surprised a lot of people, but taking that into consideration, I think it's not a good matchup for him against Razabov, because he's not going to excel in the striking, and you have to be able to at least have the threat to hit the person unless you have this elite level of grappling, which I don't think Ogden does. I think he's a very good grappler, and I think if people want to exchange and grapple with him, they're likely. But if I think Razdabov has the advantage at distance and controlling that, and have the timing and the technique to mitigate what Ogden's trying to do, which is take him down and submit him. I mean, no TKO wins for Ogden in his career. You clearly know what he's trying to do. He's going to wrestle you, and I think it kind of could go even like the Jordan Levitt, where it's a split decision, but they see the judges favor the striking and the damage done versus some kind of control and grappling, especially if Razabov is good enough to compete there. And that's where if you listen to me time and time again, you'll hear me say that if they both can grapple, I always lean to the advantage on the striker. And that's where pick is coming from. I'm not saying Ogden can't win, can't finish him. He might be the supreme grappler, and we might see that in this fight. But this is one of those, like, in a pick-em moment, like, Trey has to prove to me that he's going to do that to earn that, for me, I'm still very new at doing this, right? It's only my first year of picking official picks. And so that's what I'm going to say about Trey. I got Razdabov with the edge in the striking department overall. Just has more KO wins over in his career, and has probably faced the fire in training. I mean, a win over Esteban Rabovic, who just knocked out McKinney, if you don't remember, is, that means he can handle his striking. He had a wicked KO kick, and I just think he has the discipline to win over 15 minutes. And if he doesn't catch him with Trey trying to get desperate on maybe taking a little too much damage here. Trey was a plus money, and now he's minus 105, so it's a very even pick'em, and I like Razdabov at that pick'em price even too. All day. I think we're just going to see, I don't know. I don't really know too much about this fight. And anybody that does, I mean, I'm just trying to tell you where I can see some angles coming in. I like Razdabov there. Could be one ending. Who knows? Let's watch him find out. Bang! Okay, we're going to move on to another women's flyweight. Miranda Maverick versus Dione Barbosa. 15-5 versus 7-2. Both ladies coming off a win. Barbosa got a little bit of a height advantage at 3 inches. And, man, this one, I want to find a way to pick Barbosa, but I'm leaning on Maverick's level of competition, and I think she's just on one of these. Now, I think this one's going to the scorecard as well. I can't imagine too much stopping this fight before the fight stops itself, because I think Barbosa is really going to be able to exchange and handle with Maverick, but I could see a very close, highly contested fight leaning Maverick's way. Maybe she gets a takedown at the end of one round to really solidify one of the rounds. And even if it's close, I think the judges are going to be so they don't know what it really is. It's going to be a very split decision. And I think the talent, the output, and just the octagon control of Maverick is going to get the job done. I want to find a way to pick Barbosa, and I feel like I have before, not literally, but in a way. I just think the level of competition Maverick has faced is so much higher than the level Barbosa has faced. And when those two experiences meet in the octagon, in the Apex, in a small setting, I think Maverick is going to shine. I think she might even get a unanimous win. I really, again, could be recency bias, but if you just look at the competition that Barbosa has faced versus the competition Maverick has faced, it's night and day, just winners. She got blanched. Macy Barber, Jillian Robertson, Jasmine Jazavicius, who just won last week, right? She's faced some good competition. She's taken some lumps, and I really think she gets the job done here. I like it. I mean, minus 218, one of the larger favorites on the card. One of the few cards where everybody is very closely handicapped by the books, and where there's going to be, I think, not a lot of decisions. We're going to see some finishes here and there. They're going to come sporadically where we don't expect them, but I do think we see a lot of closely contested fights. And this is another one of them. I think Maverick is going to win the day, win a nice performance bonus, even in a unanimous decision. It might not be the most exciting card that we've ever seen, but I think she's going to be one of the pure talents that we see on display. And one true she'll be in a title fight one day in her career. I believe that. So Miranda Maverick gets the job done. Boom! Shakalaka. Now we're going to start throwing in different cliches there. Next, we're in the bantamweight division. The ever dangerous Brian bantamweight division Kelleher, 24-15 versus Cody Gibson at 20-10. Both gentlemen coming off a loss. And Gibson, big reach advantage, big height advantage. And I think that's where the books are really leaning on Gibson here this week. When I was kind of breaking it down, I was having going back and forth. Like, Kelleher has a lot of live opportunities. He has not fought any slouches. Garbrandt, Batista, Umar, freaking Ricky Simone, right? Like, he's fought people that have fought a lot of people, like a lot of time. Odie Osborne, Cody Stanman, Montel Jackson. He is not afraid to scrap against anybody. But Cody Gibson here, I think he's also one that's held his own recently, even in some tougher competitions, right? Miles John, Bracketona losses, but he's taken them to the distance. I'm flipping back and forth on this one. Back and forth. The metrics really want me to pick Gibson here, right? Like, I think that's where he clearly has an advantage. It's where he may be able to stand and bang with Kelleher, and Kelleher just can't, he won't be able to exchange back. Man, I think that's where Gibson really does have this advantage, and I think I'll end up picking Gibson there because I can just remember that Garbrandt and him just feeding for that counter, right? I mean, that's the Garbrandt special, and does Gibson have it? I don't know. We'll be seeing it, maybe. But this one is one of the harder fights for me to call because we're really having to trust fighters that have a lot of losses in the UFC. I might do the old switcheroo and pick the Brian Kelleher. I might look stupid 3 minutes into the fight, thinking, like, what are you going to do, Kelleher? You got nothing else going on. But I might just take the chalk and do Gibson. I'm going to decide before the end of the pick here because I think I am just going to lead Gibson here and just take the slump if Kelleher wins. I can't go on the limb and pick Kelleher because I do think Gibson has a chance to actually look good. It's a battle of losses here, ladies and gentlemen. It's the battle of losses. Do we go back and forth? Like, if you can see, like, there's a lot of... I like Gibson. I'm just going to go Gibson with the Gibson by decision. I don't know. Gibson. Let's just pick Gibson and move on because this one is the most confusing one for me. The one I have the least feel. I'm going to be sick if Kelleher comes and wins and knocks him out or something. Gibson's trying to get in there and strike, and we just see some counter overhand right from Kelleher. Might happen. But hopefully these guys don't see the judges' scorecard. Gibson, final decision, moving on. Bang! Young Lee versus Haider Amel, 11-1 versus 9-0. And boy, this should be a great end to the feature prelim of the bout here. And what do you want to say here? Lee is a high touted prospect coming in there. You 4-0, 2-0 in the UFC. Nice couple wins. I think he lacks that dynamic knockout power for somebody in the featherweight division. I think he's a little too conservative. And that is one thing that I think Emil brings is that X Factor knockout ability. I think he will look to win the exchanges on the feet. I think his timing is better. I think he'll be able to I think he's a better fighter. I think he's just have a little bit more experience, and I don't like his 9-0 record. I don't think the records matter too much in here, but I think between Bellator, UFC, and the Contender Series, I think he's the one that's going to have the edge. I think he's going to have the timing edge. I think he's a better counter puncher. And if Lee can't lead the dance against somebody that's, in my opinion, Lee needs to fight somebody that's worse than him, right? I think Emil has already beat somebody on his level in the UFC, but Lee, I don't think Builder is as the same level. Like, they might be maybe he's slightly better, but after that, he doesn't really have a lot of people that have tested him in the octagon. And that's where I'm going Amil here. I think Amil in the second round really gets the timing down, really gets maybe, I don't want to say second round finish, but maybe loses the first round and comes back, wins a split decision. I like Amil here. He's actually a decent dog this week, but I think he'll really, he's got the fight IQ that I'm not sure Lee has at this point with the timing, counter punches, and everything else that he'll try and do. If Amil defends the takedown, which I believe he can, I believe his grappling will be okay to do that. I think he'll be able to counterpunch and get up and do enough to, like, I think once Lee tires out in the second round. I got Amil here. Fan favorite. If you got that knockout ability in the featherweight division, I think you can go do some stuff against some guys who maybe don't have that confidence of the knockout ability and fight for, I don't want to say O'Malley style, Max style, but I like Amil here. Got a lot of significant strikes, big damage done, and I just like him, man. He's gonna be he might be joining the killer list here soon enough. If we see a major knockout this week, he's on the prospect list. He's on the scouting report, and I want to see something from him. Otherwise, I hope I don't look stupid next week and be like, "Oh, that Amil pick was bad." But it happens. It's the fight game. And we're just trying to pick some winners for you guys here. Moving on. Going to get onto the main card here in that featherweight division. You got Don Ho Choi, 14-4-1 draw versus Bill Aglio, 18-8 coming off a loss. And one thing that stands out for me in this matchup is I really like Aglio's just technique, his style, and I believe he has a lot to offer. That while he does take some losses, he takes losses against some tough opponents. He's beaten some great opponents: Brito, Herbert Burns, Alex Hernandez, and I think that's where he gets the win here. A nice decision. Maybe he can sneak in a cheeky submission, but I just don't see him getting finished here. I see this one going to the scorecard. Aglio is a kickboxer. He's going to love to just sit at distance and just try and punch, look for an opportunity. And I think he's going to have enough of a metrics advantage to really just get the job done against somebody that isn't as polished as somebody that needs to be to beat Bill Aglio. I think this is one of them. If Aglio loses, it'll be one of the more surprising picks on this match. I think he's one of the more slam dunk Choi's got losses to Jourdain Stevens, Cub Swanson really recently. A draw against Nelson, who did finish Aglio, is something that the Choi fans can get on about, but I don't see too much in that. That might have been his best fight ever, right? And maybe Nelson didn't have his best fight that game. But I like Aglio here to rebound off a KO loss, to really play very, very close to the vest. Not expose himself to somebody that maybe doesn't even have the potential there, but I think it's a very controlling, probably boring fight from Aglio. And we're going to see him win on the judges' scorecard here. Bang, Bill Aguilo in the featherweight division. 6 foot in the featherweight division, man. I'm telling you, there's some huge advantages there when we get to those prospects versus contenders and experienced cage fighters. And Bill's one of those guys. You know, they just give these guys some problems. The length is something that is hard to overcome for these smaller guys unless, like, they're a certified champion gangster. Moving along here, Aglio, I like him all day. All day! Bang! Next, we're moving to the flyweight division. Cody Durden, 16-5-1. Coming off a loss versus Bruno Silva, 13-5-2 with 1 no contest. And I'm not going to lie, I could see this fight going a draw. There might be a draw this week. So many of the fights, we haven't gotten a draw all year. Picking 200-plus fights, not one draw on the UFC so far. If there is, I know I said this recently, but this might be the week for the draw. This might be the fight for the draw. I'm not officially picking a draw because I'm going back and forth heavily on what this is going to look like. I'm leaning Durden as we break off the coverage here. As we see that they're very similarly output gentlemen. They're very similarly styles of strikers and grappling. Durden maybe a slight edge on the wrestling. He has a little bit of an edge on the metrics, a few inches taller. But I can kind of see Bruno Silva leaning into him a little bit and trying to play that leverage against the fence. I'm going back and forth here. I don't know if I can pick Silva because I'm a little worried that, like, I'm just going to pick somebody that's going to be at a big disadvantage in a fight. In terms of the wins that Durden has been against some great fighters, right? His losses are against losses to people that are, if you give them a chance, they finish you. Ulanbekov, Makayev, Jimmy Flick, any one of those guys, if you make a mistake, could be the difference in the fight. Does Bruno Silva have that X factor to end the fight against quality opponents? He hasn't proved it yet. Does he make the mistakes? I don't know. This might be a fight of making one mistake and it's over. This fight could hang in the balance at all times. Does Durden make that mistake? I don't know. Does Silva fight a great fight, go to the card, and maybe lose to a better fighter, which is kind of his MO? Ulanbekov, David Dvorak, that's kind of what we've seen in his, and he doesn't really have that big-time win on his resume. I'm going to pick Durden here. Official pick is going to be Durden just because I'll have to see Bruno do it for me, right? It's like, put that loss on my record, Bruno, and I'll give you that respect. Like I said, I could see this fight being very close, split decision, either way. And when we're trusting the judges, you never know who they're going to pick. The fact that I had to put the loss for Ponzinibbio over Slaklovov is disgusting. But, you respect the judges' decisions and whatever. But that being said, you never know once it goes to the scorecard, as close as you think it can be. Like, it can be sickening to think about. That's why I just make official picks and I don't hedge any gambles, and I don't even find it enjoyable to think about, like, maybe just picking certain props for fights might be enjoyable. This fight could very well go to the judge's decision. I'm trying to really find an angle, submission angle either way. Like I said, if either of the gentlemen make a mistake, Durden has 4 submission losses and Silva has been finished by submission. I could see this one ending that way. No striking at all. I would pick either this fight to end in a submission or it to go the distance. It's going to be very closely contested. I'm picking Durden, official pick. I think the smaller octagon, those little bit of metrics are going to add up over the course of the fight. The positioning, the scraps, the reverses. I'm going to favor Durden here. But Silva can knock himself into maybe ranking contention here. And this should be one to keep our eye out on. Moving along. Lightweight division, we got Kurt Halabov versus Kenan Khrushchevsky. 21-8 for Kurt versus 15-2 for Khrushchevsky. And I don't think this was a replacement. My memory's tricking on me. I think I can't remember. Kurt fought recently, coming off a loss, I believe, to Trey Ogden, right? He lost to Trey Ogden because I picked Trey over Kurt just by the name alone. If you guys remember the video, we can find the clip edited in there when we get the intern hired. But I picked Trey over Kurt because of his name. And here I'm going to do the same thing. I'm picking Cayenne Khrushchevsky, 15-2. Coming off there, I'm not saying too much bad about Kurt. I think he has an ability to stand and bang in there. I think he's gotten some wins over guys that have gotten wins over guys that are as good as Khrushchevsky, right? He beat Austin Hubbard, who beat other people. It's MMA math. It doesn't make sense, right? And this is one of the fights that could trick us up this week. It's why it's very closely contested. I don't know why the books don't trust Khrushchevsky as much as because it probably has something to do with his experience, right? He lost to one person, Elvis Brenner, who is arguably a ranked contender in the lightweight division already. Actually, let me take a little look at that real quick, because is he ranked in the lightweight division? He's an absolute gangster and will be ranked one day. And I think that experience is going to be enough to take him to the victory this week. Making a UFC debut, maybe throw some big hands, end Kurt's, he doesn't get finished often. He's a very measured fighter, but that's why I think he might be in over his head. You just try and look back to some of the losses that he has. They are mostly by decision against some solid competition. Maybe this one goes to the decision, but if that's being said, I'm going to pick Cayenne Khrushchevsky just because I can't trust Kurt to get it done. And this is probably one that I'll eat, right? Like, it's not as big as odds that I thought it would be at the start of the week. And I believe a lot of people do like Khrushchevsky as well. And that's where I'm going to go here. I like him too. I think he has the explosive hands to just knock the lights out of Kurt. And I feasted off of Kurt once, taking a win. I don't want to get greedy and just pick against him again because of his name. But that being said, I want him to prove something to me against somebody that has something to prove, right? He's an up-and-coming prospect coming off a loss to somebody that's actually a certified killer in Elvis Brenner. He took a round off of Ora Bly. Very close fight against somebody that is going to be ranked and maybe fight for a title sooner than later, if not fight for a number one contender fight. I'm going Khrushchevsky by decision, most likely. Hopefully gets a finish and ending this one a little bit early. Let's see it. Kaynan Khrushchevsky. Book it. Next, we're moving to the featherweight division. We got Steven Garcia versus Sung Hoo Choi, 15-5 versus 10-6. The featherweight division, two large contenders, 6-foot featherweights, just like Billaglio. And I'm going to tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, I like Steve Garcia here. I think he has that ability to just have performance of the night. I think we saw it in his first fight, and I don't want recency bias to ever take into consideration what I'm going to go do, but I'm never going to also forget about that as well. He beat Chase Hooper, who's on an incredible run since that loss. He beat Malaquez Acosta, who is coming off a win off, a couple, he rebounded after that loss. And I like Garcia here. Choi, nothing to be said about Choi is I don't like his history. I think he loses to good fighters, right? Josh Koulibaly, Alex Caceres. Like, those are losses to fighters that I think are better than him. I think Steve Garcia is a better fighter than him. If you can beat somebody like Malaquez Cortez Costa, you're a good fighter. He's a good fighter. I like Garcia here. I think he might even get the job done. He's going to be wanting a nacho fight after a big knockout here. I'm not too confident in too many picks this week. I am pretty confident in Garcia here. The fighter odds have Garcia at -148, which is pretty strong considering the rest of the odds on the card. And I like him a lot here. If he loses, I'll be very shocked, and I'll be happy to eat that L and put it on the record and learn a little bit about MMA math. But I like Garcia here. We're picking him. We're keeping it short. I could see it ending pretty sooner than later. The loss to Koulibaly just doesn't age well, right? And I worry about confidence. It's not like he's fought talent since then, right? I mean, it's going to be a tough one, but I like Garcia here, and I don't think it's that close. Moving along here, we're going to the middleweight division. We got our guy Brad Tavares coming off a loss versus Jung Young Park, the I don't even want to call him flamboyant, clairvoyant, exciting, entertaining Park. And boy, both guys coming off a loss should mean they have a lot to come off. Andre Muniz wins over Tulaloon Anders. Both guys got KO by RoboCop Rodriguez. Nothing to be ashamed of. That guy is an absolute killer at 185. If I had to fight him at 185, I'm sleeping too. That being said, I like Park here a little bit. I do think Brad Tavares can rebound and actually knock Park out. But for me to pick that and root for it to happen and want it and expect it, I have to see Tavares do it against somebody that's actually very talented. I think Park is a very clean fighter. He's a well-rounded technician. He's going to strike with you. He's going to grapple with you if you make a mistake, and he's going to take you down and look for the ground and pound. Losses to RoboCop and Anthony Fluffy Hernandez is going to put a lot of experience on his back. And I think he's in a primed position for an absolute showcase win against Tavares. Tavares is a little older in the tooth, taking a couple more brutal losses recently. Some KO losses. I don't like his momentum. The fight momentum to me is a real thing, and I think Jung Young Park he's got the flow. He's got the fighter flow. One of those certified cage fighters in the Apex. I think it's a split decision. I think he gets the job done. I think we get a nice microphone moment for the co-main event. There might not be the most fireworks, but I think if he provides one, he gets a mic moment. We're going to see something to remember and realize he's going to be one of the fan favorites. I like Park here. I like him to get the job done. I'd like to see what this Tavares is plus 45, minus 175. We're looking at this one. Hopefully not going the whole distance. I like Park here. I think he's going to be able to take the lumps, give the lumps, and when Tavares eats the lumps, I think he's going to go to bed. I think that's a little bit of his, he gets ran through, right? If he can't finish the person, I think he has a problem not getting finished, but taking damage and losing. And I think Park is really good at it. If you look at his significant strikes, 4.5 landed per minute. He's got a lot of output. He's got good defense. He's going to be able to take you down. I think there's a big advantage. And Tavares could win the takedown advantage. But they could be after he wins a couple takedowns. I think Park can get a couple takedowns early, and Tavares learns to defend it as the gas tank's empty. He's just going to pretend to shoot in and then start exchanging. I think Park's high-level fighter IQ. I think this is one that I don't want to say a walkthrough, but definitely a nice scrap, a nice Park victory, and we're gonna be adding one to the victory column. Moving along to the main event, Amanda Lemos versus Virna Jandiroba, 14-3 coming off a win versus 20-3 coming off a win. Lemos replacing Tracy Cortez, who filled in for Macy Barber against Namajunas last week. And I inherently like this fight so much more than I liked Cortez versus Jandiroba. I think the same fight we see happen last week is what we see happen against Jandiroba versus Cortez again. I think Jandiroba is a very, very good, if not one of the best standing women's strawweight boxers and fighters in the promotion. But I think Lemos has a strength advantage that is going to give Jandiroba problems. Her advantages are striking and timely grappling, and I think Lemos is going to force the grappling exchanges into positions Jandiroba doesn't like and win that dirty boxing, the exchanges in and out. I think this is going to be a very close fight. This fight is going 5 rounds. This is going to the judges' scorecard, and I do not want to pick a winner in the terms of betting. But in terms of picking for the video, I'm picking Lemos here. I love Jandiroba. I want her to get a title shot. I want her to keep excelling, and I think she's one of my favorite fighters to watch because she doesn't have to knock everybody out, but her performances are professional and classy. And I love watching that in cage fighters. And I think she's going to have a problem this week because Lemos is a junkyard dog. She's going to get in there, make it dirty. She's going to throw elbows, shoulders, leg kicks, try and take you down, reverse. Even if Jandiroba takes her down after some good exchanges, I can see Lemos getting reversal and maybe trying to steal a round here and there. This fight being 5 rounds is so incredibly fascinating to me it's going to be so much ebbs and flows back and forth that like I said, this fight to me always goes the distance. This fight is going to be so close. There's going to be micro rounds within the round where there's exchanges where they're both going to go back and forth. I think this is going to be a very high-level women's fight, and probably this. I don't know if this is a bold statement. The highest non-title women's fight we may see all year. I love this matchup way more than I loved it with Cortez. I loved the Cortez Namajunas, and if it was Barber Namajunas, that matchup as well. But to me, this may be the women's fight of the year for me. I think we will see two absolute scrapyard dogs just go at it. Throw, takedown, kick, knee, stomp, elbow, shoulder, anything to get the win. I'm picking Lemos here. I think she has that X factor to possibly get a favorable position late in the fight and just, I don't want to say finish by submission because I don't think Jandiroba really has that, like, you're going to finish her. She's never been finished, right? And Lemos finished a couple times, but by Andrade and a fight early in her career. I don't think that happens. Jandiroba is not a technical knockout artist like somebody like Andrade is with that power. And I think Lemos is the one to bring that power, to potentially get that position to end the fight early. But I think Jandiroba has the skill, experience, and talent to make it a 5-round fight. Official pick is Lemos. Not the highest confidence picks because we have to go to the judges' scorecards. So that's always a factor in when I'm picking the fights is I got to think of who I think the judges may pick as well. But I got Lemos there. We're going to do a recap here to finish the video. A super exciting fight card to break down. So many highly contested fights that are going to be on this Apex card before we got Manchester, Edwards, Muhammad, Bilal Muhammad. But that being said, we're picking Muhammad Usman to start, Luana Carolina, Razdabov, Maverick, and we're going Cody Gibson and Hyder Amel, Bill Aguilo, Cody Durden, Kenyan Khrushchevsky, Steve Garcia, Jung Young Park, and Amanda Lemos. If you enjoy my videos, a like, comment, and subscription to the channel is very much appreciated. I love bringing these videos to you. Anything you want to discuss, leave it in the comment section. Pick 100% of the fight card correctly. I'll give you $100. Leave it in the comment, please. And peace and love, everybody. We'll see you on Saturday night.